All right, good evening, everyone. Thank you all so much for being here. Thank you for the folks that introduced yourselves in the chat already. And thank you, everyone, for joining us, spending your 6 o'clock hour on a Wednesday evening. So appreciate you all. We're here tonight to discuss how we can work together to hold local government accountable through what the League has a program called Observer Corps. So I'll explain more about what that all is, what we're talking about today, and how you can start building this work in your local areas. But first, hi, my name is Melissa Marks. My pronouns are she, her. I'm the manager of Mission Impact here with the League of Women Voters of New Jersey. It's just me today, so I'm going to do my best to kind of watch the chat, go through the presentation, answer questions, and feel free to communicate with me through the chat as we go. Quick before we get started, thank you to our partners that help promote this training and have helped promoting our trainings for the whole semester here. New Jersey Coalition to End Homelessness, Food and Water Watch, Hispanic Women Chamber of Commerce, and Water Spirit. So you'll get info on all those organizations in the follow-up email. And thank you to everyone for promoting this program. Quick about us. League of Women Voters of New Jersey encourages informed and active participation in government. We work to increase understanding of major public policy issues and influence public policy through education and advocacy. We're proud to be nonpartisan, so we neither support nor oppose candidates or political parties at any level of government, but we're always working on issues of concern to our members and the public. So we are a nonpartisan organization, proud to be so, but we are a political organization. We take stances on issues, we advocate on issues, we lobby on issues, but based on our own positions and visions and values. And then here's a couple quick housekeeping items. We are recording this training. I will send a follow-up email tomorrow or later this week that includes the recording, includes a copy of the slides, and includes a few more links and more detailed information that you can use and visit as you build this program. We do ask that if you're not speaking to stay on mute. That way we don't have any accidental interruptions as we go. If you have questions or comments or thoughts, do feel free to drop those in the chat. If I don't get to them right away, we'll have Q&A at the end for sure, and you can lift those up for me, or I'll go back and try to find them for you as well. And if you do unmute to ask a question or share a comment, please identify yourself. If you can, just remind folks, because we don't all necessarily know each other in this space, who you are, if you're with a local league, your pronouns, if you're comfortable. And these are our community norms, so we hold ourselves accountable to these and ask that you do as well while we're together in this space. The first is to bring your full self and limit distractions. That way we get the most out of our shared time here together. The second is what is learned here leaves here. So please do share this information, tell your friends, tell your family, your networks about what you learned here today. Remember that no one knows everything, but together we know a lot. So do chime in, if you have had experiences with local government or local government, bodies, and you want to share something that you think is helpful, please feel free to do so. And assume positive intent while also understanding the actions of your words, or the impact of your words, I mean. All right, and here's our agenda for what we'll be discussing. We're going to start by kind of laying the groundwork. Why does this matter? Why do we need this? And we'll be doing that by going over the state of the state of the free press and the public's right to know. Then we'll be talking about Observer Corps, what observing public meetings is, how you do it, how you can get started. We'll be talking about how you can educate the public on what you've been observing. We'll go over some best practices, and then I'll let you know what kind of resources you can expect to see in the follow-up email. And then we'll do Q&A, of course. So starting off, why are we here together? Why are we having this training? So the League has an Observer Corps program. This is not a new program. We've had this around nationally in other states and here in New Jersey as well for a number of years. And so this program is going to explain why we need an Observer Corps, what the goals are of that program, and then how you can ideally implement that locally. So that either can be through a local league, maybe your local league doesn't have an active Observer Corps right now, and you can work with your local league to build that out. maybe you do have an active Observer Corps and you want to get plugged into that, or you want to expand it further from where it is today. Or maybe you're not with a local league, but you're with another group, and you can absolutely still use this information to build out this kind of program and this work with your other groups. So starting off, the state of the free press. So we want to talk about and get an understanding for why we need programs like Observer Corps, specifically here in New Jersey. And the truth is that we have had a declining free press here, in the US and in New Jersey for a while now. But the press has certain protections and certain rights to be able to access and to share information, particularly about what our government is up to, right? Our elected officials, we elect them, they work for us. It's really important that the public knows what's going on, what our elected officials are doing, and is able to share that with everyone freely. So there's a court case that gives a lot of protections for the free press, and it also would give protections to us, to individuals that are out there listening to government meetings, reporting on government meetings, that kind of thing. So in 1971, there was a Supreme Court case, New York Times versus United States, and that case laid a bunch of groundwork for affirming our First Amendment rights, the
Yeah,
press First Amendment rights
I'm in a training right now.
to to sorry, to cover the government and to write about what's happening in our government. And so there's a quote from one of the justices at the time: the press was to serve the governed, not the governors. Again, we're not, it's a part of the job of the press is to talk about things, even if they're uncomfortable for elected officials or governors' offices, right? And so this court case affirmed the First Amendment rights. It's essential protections for the press. And again, the free press is essential to holding government accountable. So, of course, the First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution protects the freedom of the press, and it's a critical tool for our democracy to be able to know what's going on in our government and hold our government and elected officials accountable to the people. Having a free press means that news outlets and other publications, and again, it applies to us as individuals as well, have the right to communicate information without influence or fear of retribution from the state or other powerful entities or individuals. So we have this right to share information, and it's our duty as well. We have these protections, and sharing this information is essential to a healthy democracy. The purpose of the free press, the people have to be knowledgeable and informed when they go vote. The purpose of the free press is to deliver information to voters before they vote, to foster dialogue and debate, to enrich understanding of this information, to report back to residents about what their government is doing, and if the things that they wanted to happen are actually happening, right? We elect elected officials. They say they're going to do this thing. We have promises, we have agreements, we have an expectation, and then we don't have time in our lives to go watch every meeting or to, read every article if there even are articles covering these things. So that's where the press comes in to help us understand, is this person that I elected holding up to what they promised me? Are they addressing the issues? Can I trust them to make sure that my community is being protected? But here in New Jersey and across the country, but we've had a big decline in free press in New Jersey. So our residents, we used to have a lot of different opportunities, local, coverage, state coverage, and regional coverage as well. But we'd have a lot fewer of that now than we used to. And there's very few reporters that cover the State House or cover major cities, let alone smaller cities or smaller regions or towns or municipalities. Now, some places do, you might have like the Bergen Record or the this or the that, but they're not necessarily covering every part of the town or every government body. And when you go into Trenton and you're in a committee room, I'll be amazed if there's like more than two reporters or even one reporter covering that committee. And so we just know that a lot of what's going on is not being covered regularly. It's not being covered, in minute details. Maybe the biggest headlines are being covered and the biggest attention grabby things are, but the day-to-day, which impacts us, our lives, our community, is not being covered nearly at the rate that it used to. In a new Rutgers Eagleton poll, 64% of Republicans, 64% of independents, and 66% of Democrats in New Jersey said they would like more local news. I don't think we've seen, that big of a coalition of people agreeing on one thing. It doesn't happen too often. So clearly there's a big desire and need for more local coverage. Um, and New Jersey has the lowest ratio of reporters per 100,000 residents of any state in the US. And this also comes back to one of our major missions of, voter participation and voter turnout, right? Um, Voters are more likely to vote when they feel confident, when they feel informed, when they know what's going on, when they have an idea about like who they're voting for, what positions they have, what issues are happening in their community, how they're being addressed. So Pew Research Center show that 52% of people who regularly vote in local elections follow local news closely compared to just 31% of those who do not. So if you feel connected to your community, you feel like you know what's going on, you're more likely to vote. But if you don't have access to a good local paper that's keeping you informed, then you might not feel that connected. You might feel less likely to go and vote in those local elections. And then the other thing to point out is, New Jersey, we're a little bit unique in the fact that we're in between two major cities. We have New York City, we have Philadelphia. And so a lot of the news coverage, they go there. There's a ton of news coverage in New York City, a ton in Philadelphia. There's not even close to the same amount in Trenton or Newark, or Jersey City or anything like that. So we get kind of pulled in either direction, our news sources do. And this matters because, again, we have a right to know. And if we don't have folks covering and sharing what's going on, then we don't know what's happening. The US has a system of government based on the premise that the government is a creature of the people and is accountable to them. But the actual rights in our Constitution and our bills and our laws to this right was not really codified until the 60s and 70s. So there's a few legislation right now that protects our right to know, codifies those rights that we have. We have the Freedom of Information Act from 1966, the Federal Advisory Committee Act of 1972, the Sunshine Act of 1976, and then there are state laws that differ from state to state as well. And these are, you'll hear the term like sunshine, transparency, openness in government, all of that. And two major legislation that we have in New Jersey that help with our rights and protecting our rights are access to public records and access to public meetings. I'll be talking a little bit about this later, and so we can get into that more then. So now we have an idea about the landscape that we're in here in New Jersey, about our rights to accessing this information, about, the need for us to have this information, understanding about what's going on. So what are we actually going to do about that? And that's where our Observer Corps comes in. That's what it was designed to do, is kind of fill the gaps that we're talking about here. So the reason that the League has this program is that we've been a champion of transparency since our founding in 1920. And it's one of our core principles and vital parts of our mission: a transparent, accountable, open government that is for the people and by the people. So through the Observer Corps, members will attend meetings, local government meetings or county government meetings, and they'll learn what is going on in their government. They'll monitor whether those meetings are conducted in an open and transparent way. They'll educate the public, and of course, they'll raise the flag if there are any issues that need to be raised. So how does this work? It's structured really for individuals to exercise their right to know. And as an individual, you're also giving a service to your community. You're helping your neighbors, your family members, the other residents, make sure that they're aware of the decisions that impact their lives, and helping to and making sure that their government is acting in a transparent and accountable way. Some benefits of an Observer Corps program. By having one of these, you're creating a civically engaged and empowered cadre of watchdogs. So the people that are, participating in this program, they're becoming extremely civically engaged. And you're helping to engage others as you're, sharing this information out as well. You're connecting individuals with the government. Often it's hard to make that connection, right? The government is over here behind these doors, the people are over here doing their thing. And so this Observer Corps unites us all, people and government entities together as one. It promotes open, transparent, and accountable government. It connects elected officials with their constituents. It educates the public about issues impacting their communities and their lives. And it helps to identify areas where action is needed or improvement is needed. So let's start from the basics. What is an observer? It's just a person, an individual. It could be you, it could be your league members, who are attending government meetings, who are noting what's happening at the meeting, and then reporting back through the system, whatever system you end up developing, to the league and the community. So just by attending these meetings, you are acting as an observer. And observers learn more about what their government is doing, learn about the issues facing their community, and learn about how those issues are being addressed by their elected officials as well. So again, why are observers important? Observers keep elected and appointed officials on notice. If you start going to these meetings, you'll see you might be the only person there. Our elected officials are not used to people showing up and listening to them and noting what's happening and telling others about it. So it helps, again, make sure that they know they are accountable to the people in their community. They're accountable to the people that elected them. It lets them know that somebody is watching what decisions are being made and how they're being made. It helps ensure that issues facing their communities are being handled in sunshine, so in a transparent way. A couple more benefits. If you're an observer, you're going to be more in touch with what is happening in your community. You'll start understanding what are the issues that my elected officials are talking about regularly. What are the solutions they're coming up with? What are the solutions they're not coming up with? What are our budget shortfalls? You're going to start understanding a lot more about what's going on in your local community. You can also see these as networking opportunities. Again, you might be the only person there. You might be one of 5, 10 people. And so you're going to have the opportunities to get to know the elected officials, as well as other concerned community members that are also going to these meetings. We've even had the circumstances where, somebody is going regularly, let's say, to a school board meeting, and they're becoming an expert in what is going on there. They might actually be asked to, hey, you should run on the school board, or hey, you should serve on this committee, or this commission. So you can, again, network and get yourself out there that way. And again, you're providing a service to your community. You're acting as the watchdog on behalf of your friends, your family, your neighbors, and helping to ensure that, your elected officials are plugged into and aware of what you need. So there's 2 things that you are paying attention to as an observer. The first is the issues that are being discussed. What are the actual issues that are being discussed? What, problems or opportunities do we have as a community? How are those being discussed, etc. And then also the process by which they are being discussed. And that's where the transparency piece comes in. So I'm going to start by talking about the issues. So again, the first thing you'll be looking for is the issues. So what issues are being discussed? Again, if you're going to like a town council meeting regularly, maybe they're talking about the sanitation schedule, or they're talking about, hey, we're really not doing great on recycling, or they're talking about budget issues, whatever it is. You want to note down, like, what are they discussing today? What are the problems? What are the solutions? And then you also want to be looking out for anything that's actually approved. If they vote to pass an ordinance, for example, or a resolution, Was there any action that was actually made to address these issues that were being discussed? And then you can also consider um, the positions that your local league has. Again, if you're a local league that's doing this and you have positions that you care about, maybe it's affordable housing, your local league has members that are very, care a lot about that as an issue. So you want to be noting down like, oh, hey, they just voted to, change the zoning to have affordable housing in this area. You're definitely going to want to take that back to your local league, make sure they know this action was voted on or discussed or brought up, and you can use that for local advocacy as you see fit. And so that can apply to, whatever organization or issues that you care about. Some other things that you want to be considering, paying attention to. So who is there? Who is in the room? Is it just you? Are there other community members there? What are their issues? What are their concerns? And then for the body itself, are all the members of the body actually there? Are all the members of the commission there? Is anyone not there? Are they not there again next time? Are they not there again the time after that? You want to get an idea, is everyone fully participating in the jobs that they're elected to serve? Are there any, concerns that you need to flag or follow up with? How about staff? Do they have staff? Do they have appropriate staff? You can look to, other similar government bodies for an idea of like what number of staff should there be. Um, is there any media there? If maybe let's say there is like a media person, they go to every single town council meeting. Okay, maybe you don't need to cover that town council meeting. So maybe instead you can look at the school board meeting. Oh, there's no media there. Okay, I'm going to pay more attention to that meeting, right? If there is media, introduce yourself, get to understand what they're looking for. And again, are there any other members of the public? Is it just you? Um, so how is the meeting being conducted? So again, this is where we get into the protocols and the transparency aspect of your local government meetings. So there's a number of things that you're going to want to look for to get an idea of how transparent and accessible your government body is. So was the meeting announced in advance? If so, how far in advance? Was it a week? Was it a day? Was it a month? Was the agenda available in advance? If so, again, how far in advance? How easy was it to find the meeting date? How easy was it to find the agenda? And then, okay, great, you have an agenda, you found the meeting, or there. Are they actually following the agenda? Are they talking about things that are just not on the agenda? Um, are the proceedings being conducted in a professional manner? Um, are the items being discussed? Does it feel like they have already discussed these behind closed doors and they've already come to decisions and they're just, kind of formally introducing these, voting on them, but there isn't real conversation happening there in the meeting? Or is it, real good conversation, engaging? Are they listening to each other? Are they listening to the public? And then is there adequate opportunity for the public to have input? Um, when do they allow for public input? Is it in the beginning? Is it in the middle? Is it at the end? Is it throughout the whole conversation? Are they limiting testimony if somebody does go up to talk? Are they limited to a certain amount of time? Are they allowed to keep going? Does it feel like the members are listening to this person? Are they asking questions? These are all important things to pay attention to. And then what is the overall tone or atmosphere as well? You'll probably get a sense as soon as you walk into this room, oh, they're totally cool with people being here. I got smiles, waves, people were excited that I was here coming to their meeting, or they were really taken aback that I was here. They're not used to people listening to them. They cut me off. They didn't want to say hi to me. So you'll get an idea of kind of like what the atmosphere is for members of the public being in the meeting. Other things to be noting, is the venue accessible? Was there parking? Were you able to, get in? Were there lots of stairs? Could you hear? Was, the microphone working? Was there a microphone? Um, if there were a lot of members of the public that showed up, could they fit? Would they be able to actually be in the room? Was it a small space? All of that is important to get down. Um, and then so that's like some general guidance, right? There's going to be more specific things that you're looking out for depending on the body that you're observing or the, issues that are occurring in your community. So once you figure out like, hey, I want to be observing the school board meetings, for example, you're going to want to do some research into a school board. How do they operate? What is their jurisdiction? What should they be working on? What is really outside of their duties when it comes to schools? So getting an idea about what the agency should actually be working on, the functions and services that agency provides. You also want to do some research into who's on the body, who serves on the body, names and titles. Is there somebody in charge? Um, and if you can, get an idea of what they look like so you can introduce yourself, but you can also ask while you're there. And then what are some procedures for the local government body as well? Um, And so again, we can help you find some of this if you need, but what are the meeting procedures that they have, time and place, ability of agenda, minutes, all of that. How is office or agency funded? That might be good to have an idea, how is this office funded? And that might give you an idea as depending on how they're talking about addressing different things. And then yeah, any state or local meeting access laws or regulations as well. So you also might be wondering, again, like what kinds of bodies can I be observing? Any, public body, any elected body. And then for leagues, if you're a local league of a municipality or a few municipalities, that's your jurisdiction. So you want to be looking at, I live in Parsippany, so the Parsippany School Board or the Parsippany Town Council, right? Those meetings. If you're a county league, you can go all the way up to county. So you can do the county commissioner meetings, county elections, board of elections, or you can, do other local municipalities as well. So have an idea about like what coverage you have, and then you're going to have to prioritize. You can't do everything, even if you're just, a one town league, it's unlikely you'll be able to get to everything. So think about, what issues are facing my community and what bodies address those issues the most. City, town council, they do a lot. That could be a good option. School board is, something people are very concerned about, of course, but maybe your interests in your local league are affordable housing. So maybe you want to pay attention to zoning boards and planning boards. So think about what makes sense for your community and your league or your organization and prioritize. Understand you probably can't do everything certainly right away. And so some guiding questions for you to consider as you're starting to build out this program again and prioritizing what you can do, where you want to start. Thinking about where you can have the most impact. Um, Thinking about if there's an office or an agency that is of particular concern, why do you want to start an Observer Corps? Is there an issue that you think might be happening? And you want to make sure that you're covering that and watching that. Um, Again, like the office that has jurisdiction over the issues that you're concerned about. Um, and think about your members. What are they interested in? Don't send them to the library board if they have no interest at all in libraries. Try to make sure it's something that will be interesting to them. You can also, again, think about your community. What's a hot issue? I mean, the data centers, right? Those are popping up all over. I think that's a big concern to a lot of people right now. So you might want to think about, what agency would be best to observe for something like that. Um, if someone has, there's a volunteer in your organization, they have a specific background or interest, that's a good way to kind of pair them with an agency that is in that area. Um, And then again, like if there is a bunch of people going to the town council meetings and you have a media there that's covering the meetings, then maybe you don't need to cover those meetings. Maybe you can find a different meeting that is not being covered and have the most impact that way. All right, so sunlight is said to be the best of disinfectants, right? So we're talking about sunlight as transparency, as a way to make sure that if there is something, nefarious going on, we want to have eyes on that. We want to shine some sunlight on that and make sure that we can, get to the root cause of that. So, when it comes to laws and our access to public records, again, we Open Public Records Act and some other laws grant us access to public records. Um, and so, what is a public record? Anything that's compiled, generated, or maintained by a government entity, including published material, unpublished records, electronically recorded files, documents, working papers, memoranda, similar materials. So essentially, anything that your government body is doing, you have a shot at being able to get a record of that. There are, of course, some exceptions. So classified material, and different things that may be restricted because of personal information. So, I'm not going to go through like the 10 exemptions. I'll send this to you all in the follow-up, but we can help you too as you're starting to look into like, what do I need to know? What do my observers need to know? Let us know and we can help go through maybe local agencies that you're looking through, state laws, and make sure that you feel comfortable understanding what um, your policies are. Um, and But the so Open Public Meetings Act and those are going to be somewhat more relevant to the work that you're doing. You're probably not doing a ton of requesting records and that kind of thing. Know that it is an option for you depending on what you end up observing and wanting to act on. But most likely you're going to be looking at the Sunshine Act, which prescribes specific procedures that agencies must follow, again, around like announcing and changing meetings, closing meetings, withholding substantive information about meetings. There's procedures that need to occur for tracking minutes and sharing minutes with the public. And then there are enforcement mechanisms as well that can be employed if these are not being followed. So send the full text of the Sunshine Act in the follow-up email, and you can look through it further if you would like. Here in Jersey, we have the Open Public Meeting Act as well. And again, it requires adequate advance notice for all government body meetings. The right to attend meetings, you should never be, turned away from a government body meeting, and reasonably comprehensive minutes to all meetings as well. So I'll send you these resources in the follow-up email. And then we have Oprah as well, again, State Open Public Records Act. Now it was unfortunately, what we call it gutted. It was definitely tailored down a couple years ago when that legislation we tried to stop passed. So it is a little bit easier, unfortunately, for record requests to be denied now. But you still can use Open Public Records and we can help you navigate that through if you need anything for your Observer Corps work. But yeah, protecting your right to know, it's really important. Government decisions need to be made with public input and oversight, and having an Observer Corps program is one way to ensure accountability and the public right to know. So the last thing I want to talk about for the Observer Corps is what to actually do with the information that you're gathering, right? So you're going to these meetings, you're observing them, you're taking notes. Okay, now what? And so there's a couple of different things you can think about for educating the public, because end of the day, that's what we want, right? We're trying to fill in some gaps here, trying to make sure that the community knows what is going on with their government. And so we want to be educating the public. So you want to make a plan. Again, especially if you're starting the Observer Corps new, you'll want to make a plan to about how you're going to be getting this information out there before you start jumping in. And you want to think about internal and external as well. So with your local league, there might be some information that doesn't need to get to the full public, like, hey, this government body is doing well, or hey, they passed this very minute issue that just does not need to, the whole world does not need to know about. And so, but you can still have, an internal kind of column or blog or, update that you have going to still make sure the information is getting out there and that your league members or the folks interested in this information can access them. So your local league might have a newsletter already. Talk to your leaders. Maybe you can get a column in there every month or two and have your reports regularly sent out that way. Maybe you can start a blog and share that with league members regularly. Or if you have monthly meetings or monthly emails or things like that, you can get a spot and you can use those to share internally. But then you also want to share externally as well. So communicate, again, one, why these programs are important, but then also what information that you're gathering. You can create a Know Your Government publication with information that you're all gathering through your Observer Corps. You can work with the media as well. So you can work on press releases, op-eds, LTEs, especially if you find problems or you know like, hey, they're talking about getting a data center in here. You want to be releasing that widely. So those are some ways working with the press to do so. Getting to know the local media outlets, if you do have them, what those are, and encouraging those journalists to report on the super local work that you're doing. You could try to get a column in a local newspaper. And just by doing this and doing this outreach, you can establish yourself as an expert, as someone to go to. So if media does want to know, like, oh, hey, what is happening in Parsippany? Oh, I know Melissa, she goes to all the town council meetings, let me reach out to her. So you can kind of be that point of contact. You can start a blog for the local league and that gets shared out publicly. So there's lots of different ways that you can go about making sure this information is out there and getting out. And you can also think about, events, right? You can hold town halls around, specific issues that are coming up or transparency issues, or, you can hold regular events to make sure that the community has access to hearing about this information. If you are going to work with the media, just a couple of pointers. It can be hard sometimes to get their attention, so don't be afraid of being persistent and following up and saying, hey, this is important, this is important. I promise you this is important. You can consider using media advisories to give folks an idea about what you're talking about. And always, and don't necessarily like build up to your point when you're trying to get media to pay attention. Lead with the most important thing right away, and then you can provide details from there. Keep your outreach short. Call ahead of end of day deadlines. So there's some kind of tips that you can take into account to get media's attention. And then you also definitely want to prepare before you speak with the reporter. Um, Again, you're probably going to have a limited amount of time. You have to sell your pitch quickly. And even if it's, someone well-intentioned person, you still want to have what you're going to say in order. Maybe even write out some quotes for yourself. Make sure that it comes across as polished and you get to say what you're actually trying to get out properly. So thinking ahead of time, what is my goal? What am I trying to accomplish with this communication? And then who is my audience? What do they care about? And what should my messaging be focused on? So for example, let's say they're moving the trash schedule. You want to make sure that folks know they're talking about moving the trash schedule. Who is your audience that cares about that? It's probably going to be, homeowners in your community. And so how are you going to get those homeowners to pay attention to your goal, and what messaging will help you do that? So that will help you prepare a quick pitch for your media. And then the other thing about the media is you also have to understand if you're doing this from a league's perspective, what what jurisdiction you're in, right? So our National League handles all national media. State League handles state media, and then the local leagues handle local media. So if you're a county league, you can handle county media and down. If you're a league that's a municipality, you can handle media in your municipality. But anything that goes up to state or federal, you cannot, as if you're representing the league and acting as a league member, communicate with those levels of media without checking in with us first. So you can still, potentially do a column with NJ.com, but you need to talk to us first, and we'll help you navigate that and prep for that. So just keep that in mind and understand when you need to check in with us and when you can just run with it locally, and you can always, double check if you're not sure. So now we want to talk about what happens when there's a problem. So let's say you're observing some meetings, you have, an understanding of, the open public meeting requirements, and you see that there's an office that is not observing that. Maybe they're not posting the agenda, or they're not giving enough notice for when the meetings are changed, or it's inaccessible or something like that. So the very first thing to do is not necessarily to raise a 5 alarm fire, because the agency might not know. They might not realize. They might be new, or this might be a new law change or something that they just might not know. So the first thing to do is just try to meet with them. Hey, I'd love to talk to you about the Open Public Meetings Act, or I'd like to talk to you about your agendas. You're not following them. What's being posted is not what is actually being discussed in the meeting. And so you can have that conversation, and hopefully you'll find that they just didn't realize. They're going to fix it, and moving forward, it is being done properly. If that doesn't work, and the other thing you want to do is, offer to help them find a solution too, right? Or maybe they don't, whatever. They don't know how to use the website well. Okay, can you connect someone to help them? Be there as a solution as well. Don't just be there pointing out problems. But let's say that doesn't work, the next thing would be to continue to go locally. So you can talk to local elected officials. So maybe you'll go to your town council. Hey, I've been going to these meetings. Sunshine is really important. This is why. Can you talk to this entity, and can you remind everyone of the importance of transparency, accountability, and sunshine? And that might just do it there as well. But if that's still not happening, you can turn to members of the public. So you can, organize in your community, organize your league members, your partners, and just have them call on the entity to be transparent. Hey, you've tried a few times behind the scenes. At this point, we're going to escalate, and we're going to have folks calling into the town council and telling them that they need to post their agendas with more notice. Um, and then if that still is not working, you can file with the county prosecutor, attorney general. I would say if it gets anywhere near that point, to connect with us, and we'll help kind of navigate the next steps. All right, last before I open up to questions, best practices. So again, this is a big program, especially if you're launching it for the first time. Set expectations that are realistic for yourself, especially in the beginning. It's okay if you can't attend every single meeting. If you can attend, 5 a year, that's still great. If you can attend every other monthly meeting, that's great. It's better to attend sporadically than not attend at all. Your presence is going to have a big impact on that room, even if you're not there every single time. And again, focus on where you're going to send your observers. It's okay to not cover every single government meeting, but prioritize what you think is most important to cover. When you go to a meeting for the first time, introduce yourself. Some elected officials might be a little bit caught off guard. They're not expecting, that many people to be there, let alone somebody with a clipboard taking notes, that has shared some things publicly about the meeting. So, hey, I'm Melissa. I'm with the league. We are launching an Observer Corps programs. We'll be attending these meetings regularly, just, making sure the public is aware about what their elected officials are doing. something simple like that. We're not hiding, so just being upfront and getting to know folks. Again, you can build really good relationships with these people through this program. Um, Consider establishing a coordinator as well. So maybe there's somebody that cares about this, agrees it's important, but they can't physically go to meetings. Think about what else they can do. They could be a coordinator. Again, there's, a lot of things to coordinate if you have people going to a few different meetings. So they can be the person compiling that information from the reports. They can be the person recruiting other people that can go to these meetings. They can help train and advise observers. They can assist when you do need to escalate something or make a call to action on something. So there are lots of roles that you can fill. And then you can also consider staggering, if I can only go to every third month, but Eric can go to every second month, we can stagger, we can switch off. So consider that. Again, expectations for the observers, make sure they understand that the elected officials might be a little bit uncomfortable at first. So there's some steps that you can take. Again, introducing yourself right away. We have template letters that I can share that you can send to them in advance too. Like, hey, just so you know, we're going to have observers in your meeting. This is what they're here for. This is what they're doing. And then that gives them a bit of a heads up before you even walk into the room. Um, and if you can't attend a meeting in person, you can at least, monitor the agenda, monitor the minutes, and you can stay up to date and informed that way. And that's a good way of being able to say, oh, they're talking about data centers next month. Let's make sure we show up for this one. So even if you can't attend every single meeting, there's other ways that you can be plugged in and observing your local government meetings. All right, and so I have a lot of resources that I'll be sending you all. We have what I just laid out today is like a 20-page document that LWVUS has. So observing your government in action, protecting your right to know. They have more details, more information, so you'll be able to look through that. There's also the Guide to New Jersey Sunshine Laws from my friends at ACLU. uh, Looking for sunshine, protecting your right to know. There's a sample reporting form, a template, outreach form, and some other information and resources that you can sort through. Um, but I would just say, I highly encourage folks to give this a shot. It's really important that we are monitoring our government officials and we're educating the public and we're holding folks accountable because they work for us. And things happen locally and we don't know about them until the last minute. So being that person that can raise the red flag when needed or the green flag, and can be there for their community, be that watchdog is really important. Um, as you start building these out, don't hesitate to reach out to us as a resource. We can help you think about, more locally what you might need, what resources you might need, what, understanding of different laws you might need. So don't hesitate to reach out, and I'm more than happy to kind of make more resources or go through anything with you as well. So with that, I'd love to open it up. Are there any questions? You can feel free to put them in the chat, or you can unmute and ask your question as well.
We're in Hoboken. Let me put my video on. Thank you very much. It's really, really informative. My questions are really about from where you sit. Are there observer corps underway in some locales? And or are you aware of any locals that are looking to establish them? Because I would be interested in joining one, not in starting one. That's
Yeah.
quite seems daunting, as important as it is.
Yeah, no, of course, for sure. Again, I understand that. Um, if you're looking at this as like a new program to get every government body, it's way too much. Yeah, so thinking about it more like what can you do yourself for now, or who can you find to help work on this together is definitely the right way to think about it. We do have some active in New Jersey. I don't have off the top of my head like every local league that is doing this actively right now. I know that like Monmouth County, they definitely do it. I know Cape May County is interested in starting one. So you're in Hoboken. We have a Hudson County League. I do not think they have a Observer Corps program yet, but I'd be more than happy to connect you with, the league leaders there. And yeah, even if it's just, hey, we're starting by going to, one town council meeting and that's where it starts, that's like totally a good place to get started.
Super. Thank you very much, Melissa.
Of course. And I put my email in the chat. If I don't remember to email you first, please email me. Great.
Will do.
Awesome. I see Lisa has a hand raised.
Yeah. Hi there. We have an issue with our local council. The red flag was they show up at meetings, there's absolutely no discussion, and they just vote. And when we've asked them about it, it's like, oh, well, we all talk amongst ourselves. That seems to be a violation. And where do you go with something like that?
Yeah. Where are you in what county are
Rahway Union.
Union County? Interesting. Yeah, I would say, I don't know, like, the number one answer without having more details, but I would say the first thing to do is to talk to them. It sounds like you already did, and they're not particularly interested in making that change themselves. So, yeah, I would say probably op-eds, making sure that the public is aware of this, trying to get a pressure campaign, talking about this around elections as well. Trying to get folks to, vote based on that knowledge and information. But yeah, I think just getting the public to understand that this is happening, this is not okay, seeing what kind of pressure you can put on them from the public is the best way to go. If you wanted to send me an email with more details, I could see if we have any other suggestions for you as well.
Are you aware of any Union County observer groups?
We have a Plainfield League and a Hillside League. I'm not sure if they have observer cores, but again, I'd be happy to connect you.
Okay. I'll email. Thanks.
Great. Yeah, of course. I'm not sure what the next hand was. I'll go with Quelly. I hope I'm saying your name right.
Yeah, it's really. Is my question is sort of along the lines of what I just heard from Lisa, I think. Is that yeah, I'm coming from Orange, New Jersey. And we've been, a couple of residents have been attending and observing for probably over 3 or 4 years and see multiple instances of not following the sunshine law, circumventing the law, um, a lot of things, and we've documented it. And so I'm just wondering, I thought I heard you say something about the county. You said, I think the county, I forgot what entity, it was a legal entity you mentioned, a county prosecutor or attorney general. So like at what point is that call made and what can they do?
Yeah, so I think like what you're talking about, documenting this, having specific examples of the practices that are anti-transparent, all of that is going to be important. And then yeah, you can try to get like the county prosecutors or AG. That would be definitely like, the last step to bring legal recourse to hold them accountable. I think again, like if you want to send me some of this, I can talk to some of our advocacy folks and see if they have any advice and help as well. But yeah, public pressure is going to be important too. Someone might not care if I'm telling them they need to do the right thing, but if 2,000 people or 200 people that are voters in their community are talking about it, they're going to feel the pressure a lot more that way. So thinking about ways to hold events, talking about accountability, pointing to these things that you're observing that are illegal or at least against best practices, bringing all of that to light is going to be, a good way to start putting the pressure on folks, op-eds,
Yeah,
newsletters.
we've done everything you named, we've done. And we're
Yeah.
at the point we have voters that are turned off who don't want to vote, who don't want to be bothered
Mhm.
altogether. We have a young lady who she fits the bill as being an observer, and she goes to every meeting, and she's resorted to, social media, actually just,
Yeah.
filming and showing these meetings and explaining, what's going on to people. And so, yeah. So
Yeah.
it's sort of
Yeah,
like,
no, that's
okay,
mhm.
yeah. I'm sorry.
No, I was gonna say like that's extremely frustrating. That's exactly, the kind of thing that the observers should be flagging and working to address. So I would say it sounds
Yeah.
like you've done a lot of what you can already. Um, I think the best I could do is if you send me an email, I can
Okay.
better try and connect you with folks that can help, maybe from like a legal standpoint.
Okay. Okay. Great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. All right, I think Tracy next and then Dawn.
Unmute myself there. Thanks, Melissa. So I'm up in Sussex County, and the indivisible group that's up here is actually pretty large. So they actually had started kind of doing an observer corps type work. They were focusing on the county commissioners. And so they've had a couple of interesting incidents happen with that. So you answered some of my questions actually when you were talking to Cavelli there, because they've done things like give particular people extra time to speak, but then cut off other people early, threaten to just randomly change public comment from the published time to, to shorten it. The last commissioners meeting before tonight, they actually moved locations after beginning the meeting in the usual location. Yeah, so there's a lot of interesting things, but obviously the county prosecutor is not necessarily the person to go to for that, I think. It sounds like just continuing like the public awareness of these issues would maybe
Yeah,
be.
yeah. Again, like making sure you're documenting this,
Yes.
talking to them about it first. Like, are they open to understanding that this is not okay and this is why? Yeah. And then, yeah, the public pressure, I think, is a really good next step. Again,
Okay.
making sure community members know they're calling in and telling them, hey, I don't like this. Um, but yeah, at a certain point, you can try to take it to a legal spot.
Okay.
And yeah, feel free to email us
Well,
and we can try
yeah,
to help.
we'll see how it goes tonight. There's a bunch of
Yeah.
people that are there, so I'll find after that. We also have a data center issue that just cropped up last week. So if you
Yeah.
haven't heard that yet, Andover, it's going to be a pretty big deal. They've got quite a few people stepped up to actually run as write-ins against the current town council members. So
Mm, Well,
I'm sure we'll be talking on that one.
yeah, yeah. I mean, you're all pointing out like, unfortunately, often once you do start really paying attention to these, you are going to uncover some bad practices. So,
Yeah, that's how it's been up here. So it's wild.
thank
Thank
you
you.
for sharing. Don, go ahead.
Yeah, so I guess I want to ask about a sort of a flip side to the public meetings, which is I think I've heard that if you want to have a sort of a deeper dive conversation than is really meaningful in a 3-minute public comment period, if you want to have more of a conversation with members of local government, uh, there may be implications in terms of Sunshine Act. So I just wanted to sort of see if you had any guidance on that.
You mean like during the public meeting
No, no,
itself?
like if we want to have like outside the public meeting,
Mhm.
we want to have like a few members of the public go and talk to some of the local electeds so
Mhm.
that, we can have a more substantive conversation
Got it.
than we could in
Right.
the public meeting. What are the requirements there?
Got it. Yeah, I'm not sure that there are any requirements to your point, I guess, right? I would say it's certainly a best practice to be accessible to the public. And that's at the state level too, right? So we run into this as well, where we ask to meet with our legislators. Sometimes they say no, or they don't get back to us, right? And we're going to keep trying, but I'm not sure that we have like a legal thing to point to make them talk to us. we can definitely say, look, this is again, like you work for us, we're constituents, we live in your town, we're voters or we're residents, and it's your duty, it's your job to be open and accessible to us. Now, if I was asking to meet with you every single day, that's that's unnecessary. But if I'm asking to just have a meeting with you or a few meetings with you on different topics, like that's not unreasonable, and that is part of your job. So again, it's just about making that pitch to transparency, to accountability, to open government. If you can't get them to listen to you, who else can join you in that call? Because yeah, it should be their job. They should, folks should be having meetings with us and responding to us and having those conversations.
And
And
I
also,
think that I think I'd heard that if you are planning to meet with more than a quorum of the local government, like more than half of the town council or something, like you have town's council of 3 people and you want to meet with 2 of them, then that would constitute like a meeting that would have to be like um published in advance and all of that stuff. Does that
mm, I'm not
sound
sure. I
familiar?
mean, like at the state level, that wouldn't be. I'm not sure if it's different for locals. I would say I'd be happy to ask Eric, our director of democracy, to look into that. He might have a better idea.
Mhm.
So yeah, I can follow up with you on that.
Yeah, I'm just mostly interested in sort of some of the mechanics there because
Right.
we are actively meeting with some of our locals.
Yeah, no, for sure. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
And I'll also say, just as a general for everyone, these issues are issues we're seeing at the state level too, right? The agendas are posted at the absolute last second. Bills are changed before we're even there, right? Our legislators aren't meeting with us. These are all issues that are unfortunately happening, and that's why we need public pressure and we need watchdogs and we need accountability because it is lacking in New Jersey right now, unfortunately. All right, I see a question from Daniel in the chat. Is the Observer Corps a new initiative from the League? I'm in Montclair and interested in participating. It's not new. It's a program that's been around for a while nationally. It's a national program, and we have it here in the state and at various local leagues. But that doesn't mean that every local league has one active or, has had one at all. So I don't know again off the top of my head if Montclair has an Observer Corps, but I'd love to work with Montclair, with you in Montclair on implementing one in the community. So definitely check in with them, and they all have my email so we can talk and strategize moving forward. All right. Any other questions? Thank you all for, caring about this and for some of you are already doing this work. I love it. All right, I'm seeing thank yous in the chat. So, feel free to interrupt me if you do have a question, but, just quickly want to say thank you all for being here. If you're not already a member, please consider joining and yeah, reach out to me. Again, we would love to build these programs out around the league, around the state and help you with yours. So don't hesitate to reach out and thank you all so much. Awesome. Tayla's going to bring it to the members' attention.
Melissa, thank you very
Thank you,
much.
Barbara. Of course. All right. Good night, everyone. Have a good rest of your evening. See you soon.